All right, so before we get into all of the different classes that are available to men, women, youth, all of that, I want to make sure that we clarify the definitions of what equipment specifies certain classes and how to properly follow the rules in that regard. We just, in the previous video, went over what traditional bows and bare bow and Olympic recurve kind of look like for ASA and what they stipulated requirements for to meet those class requirements. Then ASA also breaks down what they consider a fixed pin class or an open class. So for what the ASA defines as a fixed pin class, we're going to break all of this down and so we can dive deeper in exactly what classes that entails. What this will affect all classes that include men and women's hunter, hunter elite, senior hunter, men's bow novice, young adult, and youth pin. All of those classes all are lumped, have the same rules attached to it as these fixed pin rules. So that's where each class will have its own variation of what stipulations that allow you to shoot in those classes, and we're going to go over that next. But I want to make sure that all of these rules are shared by those classes. So any shooter in these classes must have a fixed pin sight, which means none of your pins can move. The high sight housing cannot move anything after you start your round. You have to have it locked down. If it can move, some sights are able to be moved. On this sight here, which I can kind of show maybe, you can adjust the sight housing up and down by just turning these knobs really easily. And depending on which yardage you're shooting or anything like that. For a fixed pin class, they don't want you to be able to do that. So you have to lock it down. You have to demonstrate to your shooters that are in your class, the other shooters that are in your group that you're shooting with, you have to be able to demonstrate to them that your sight's locked down and you're not moving it. But they do not limit how many number of pins that you can have on your sight. So you could have, a 5 or a 7 pin sight, if that helps you be able to, with guessing your yardage or handling the yardage variation and differences. Again, remember there's different classes along with these, that some of them are known yardages and some of them are unknown yardages. So as you can imagine, an unknown yardage that you can't move your sight might make it to where you're definitely guessing a little bit when it comes to moving your pins or guessing your holdover or under when you're shooting at a target. Another stipulation that they have for these fixed pin sights is that if the class you're shooting in has a 30-yard maximum yardage of target yardage, you cannot use any magnification in your sight. This means that there's a lens that can be attached to these scopes right here in the end here, and my scope actually does have a magnifying glass in it, so I don't really want to put my fingers on it. But anyway, so if you have a class that your yardage maxes out at 30 yards, you can't have that. If your class maxes out at 40 yards in a fixed pin class, you are allowed to have a magnifying lens in your sight to be able to help bring those targets closer and be able to possibly see some rings and understand where you're supposed to aim. If you need to use a verifier or clarifier in your peep to be able to bring everything in focus a little bit better for you, you're allowed to do that in either of those classes, because they do not stipulate that, they do not consider that to be a magnification of any type. So that's just as helping you be able to see through your peep better and see your pins better, so that you're allowed to do that in either of those classes. Stabilizers, with the exceptions of the hunter elite classes, stabilizers are permitted, but must be less than 12 inches in length from the connection point of the bow. Typically everybody's got the front bushing on the end of their bow. That's where the tip, their stabilizer is attached there. That is where that 12-inch mark starts there and ends clear out at the end of the weight. So if you buy a 12-inch bar and then you add weights to it, or you have a quick disconnect on it, you're going to be over that 12-inch mark. So keep that in mind when you're selecting how long of a stabilizer you need. You also need to take into account for a quick disconnect and or the weights that are going to be on the end. You are, however, allowed to use a back or a sidebar or even a V-bar with no length restrictions. That's one thing they've changed for 2020. They have no length restrictions on the back bar, so you can run whatever you want back there. So again, these are the stipulations for what the ASA classifies as fixed pin classes. And we're going to go over exactly which classes and what variations of those classes use these rules in the next video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.